The first skill to master in Shapr3D is navigation. All navigation input is done using your fingers. So if you drag your finger on the screen, you're orbiting. A subtlety to this is that you orbit around the point from which you first start dragging. So if I drag over here, I'm going to be orbiting around that area. Whereas if I drag over here, I'm going to be orbiting around that area. If you drag two fingers on the screen, you're panning. If you bring those fingers closer together, you're zooming out. You can do that multiple times to keep zooming out. Or if you push the fingers further apart, you're zooming in. If you drag the fingers relative to one another like this, you're twisting. If you double tap on the grid, it takes you into a top view. Notice the cube in the upper right-hand corner. It says top. And right now, it's oriented with the word going down. And that's because the green axis is going to the right. I'm going to twist the view, and it will pop into a 90-degree increment. So now we're in the preferred orientation. Just underneath the cube, it says 1 foot. And the symbol next to that represents a single square. So if I draw a line using the pencil, it measures 1 foot in length. If I zoom out, eventually the grid will change, and now each square is worth 2 feet. So if I draw a line here, that's 2 feet long. If you tap on the cube, you have access to different standard views. If I choose front and ZX plane down below, I can then sketch on this plane. So if I draw a line here, it's actually in a different plane compared to the lines I drew previously. So if I drag my finger on the screen, I'm going to be orbiting. And it's a little bit confusing now because the grid that we're seeing is the ZX plane. To reset everything, just double tap on the cube. And it goes back to the original orientation. Now I can see those two lines that I drew on the original grid, 1 foot and 2 feet in length, versus this arbitrarily sized line that's going up in the blue direction or Z direction. If you want to use a different set of units, you can access that from the cube. Tap on the cube, go to units. Let's use centimeters. And then down below you can choose a degree format, whether it's degrees and minutes or decimal degrees. It's your choice. I'll tap outside to close that menu. And I'll double tap on the grid to go into a top view. I'll just twist it. Pan it over, zoom out. So now each grid square is 50 centimeters. If I draw that in here, I'll draw a 1 meter line here, 100 centimeters. If I tap on this line here with the pencil, it says it's 30.48 centimeters, which is what 1 foot would be in metric units. So when you change units, it doesn't scale anything, it just leaves them all the objects exactly how you initially drew them. So you can go back and forth between imperial and metric units. You can go up here and I can switch back to foot as my unit. And then if you're using the so-called imperial system of inches and feet, you have a choice of architectural or decimal. So architectural allows you to input feet and inches, whereas decimal is just decimal feet. So the Appearance tab allows you to show hidden edges, and that's something that we'll do when we're looking at transparent objects later on. And the Views tab allows you to select from these 6 faces of the cube and 3 different planes that are all mutually orthogonal to one another. And this blue button at the top allows you to reset the view and grid. which is what you can accomplish by double tapping on the cube as well. So that's all you need to know to navigate in 3D space in Shapr3D. I'd like to show you how you navigate in SketchUp so you can compare that with the navigation system in Shapr3D. So there are explicit tools for navigation up here on the toolbar. There's Orbit, Pan, and Zoom. And they all work by dragging the left mouse button. So you can orbit, pan, and zoom by dragging up or down. But most power users won't use those tools. Instead, I prefer to use the mouse wheel. You can roll the mouse wheel to zoom, drag the mouse wheel to orbit, and hold down the Shift key while dragging the mouse wheel to pan. So it's a bit more to remember, perhaps, as compared with Shapr3D, but once you master the navigation system in SketchUp, it really becomes second nature, and you don't have to think about it very much. SketchUp also comes with a first-person navigation system, and that's accessed through the camera. You can add a new camera by saying Position Camera, and then you drag from where the camera is to where it's looking, and that puts your eye height right on the ground. You then follow that up by panning down, that is holding the Shift key and dragging the mouse wheel down to set your eye height above the floor. You can see that height over there in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. It says eye height. And then you follow that up by choosing to walk. And walk works by dragging up or down or left or right, and it allows you to move through an architectural space. And this is really invaluable in an interior. So this first-person navigation system is something unique to SketchUp, and it's not present in Shapr3D. But it just highlights the differences where you might use these programs. SketchUp is more well-suited to an architectural interior, where you have a lot of different objects that you're managing, and Shapr3D is more well-suited to generating unique models that you then bring into SketchUp or bring into another program and continue on with your workflow.